All right, welcome back. And in the previous video, we learned about what are scripted pipeline, what are declarative pipeline. This video will give you a practical demonstration. This will be a project where you will be implementing all the learnings that we have done so far, right? So this will be a very basic project that will help you to enhance your knowledge when it comes to Jenkins. Okay. Now here there are two sort of projects that we would be working with. One is Java based project and another would be a Python based project. Today, we are going to work with the Java-based project. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to do the local development, which is already been done. I have shared it on my GitHub repository. Okay, now where it is stored and how do we use it, everything will be shared over this specific video. There will be no cuts and shorts that will be missed. Okay, everything will be shared over this specific one. Okay, no matter how much lengthy it goes, but we are going to record each and everything which is required for you to get started with Jenkins. Okay. So here what we are going to do is we are going to pull the code from GitHub. Now then we are going to build, test and compile. Image will get created. We are going to tag it and then we are going to push it to the artifactory. In our case, this is Docker Hub. Okay. So this is a basic fundamental thing that we are going to do today. Okay. And here this is the repository that we would be referring to. Okay. Now considering that you have the basic knowledge of Jenkins, like whatever we have done so far, and I believe that you are following along the playlist. Okay, if you are coming directly to this project, I would request you to go through the previous videos so you have the idea what is actually running behind, right? What is the science behind the logic? Okay, so yeah, you have to go to the third folder, that is 3 Java Jenkins Docker app. Here we have the entire code base which is we are going to use. Now, I might have used a to-do application, or I might have been chosen a complex project, but here this is just a basic Hello World program. Now, I deliberately choose this to move forward with the tutorial because I don't want to move into complexity right now. See, things can be done complex later on, but right now we just have to understand how those things work. So let's not directly jump with a project that will create complexity, right? Let us break down the things, understand in a very simplified manner, and then go for the complex one. Okay, we are definitely going to cover the complex projects as well, but this basic structure, the skeleton will give you the idea how does things works under the hood. Okay, and further on we are going to implement this, we are going to modify this project at the same time so that whatever we are learning we are implementing at the same time. Okay, I would request you to follow along with this repository because it is a very basic one that you can find into. Okay. Now, once you understand what is the science and logic behind it, then only you will be able to implement whatever you want to do. Okay. So, yeah. So, let me just explain you the hierarchy of this repository. When you go inside this folder, 3 Java Jenkins Docker app, you'll find one readme.md file. Now I have added everything whatever you need to get started with this application. So this is a minimal Java based application that we are going to use for the demonstration for complete CI/CD workflow. Okay. Now this is using Jenkins, Maven, Docker, and Docker Compose. Here we are just going to focus on Docker. Okay. Now how do we proceed the things? Okay. Let us first even if we move, let us first see what actually it is capable of. Here, this project is intended for the beginners who want to learn CI/CD, who want to know how do we create a simple Java application, okay, how you containerize your application, and how do you share your images over with the people. So this is the basic purpose of creating this repository, and this is how the project structure looks like. And these are the two main files that we have to take care of. First is a main Java application, and second is unit test case file. Okay. Third, now what is pom.xml? Now, pom.xml file, so basically it is a Maven build file. Pom.xml file is a file which is used for installing the dependency. All right. And second, we have Docker file where we have added all the logic, how we are going to containerize the application. Post that, I have added a basic Jenkins file, but we are going to write a Jenkins file from very much scratch. And this time we are not going to pull the code, the Jenkins file from the source code manager because I deliberately left one topic that we have to explore this time. Okay. And guess what? We are going to write our own Groovy pipeline in the Jenkins itself. All right. So yeah, if you go at the bottom, you'll find the instruction how you can create a clean package, how you can compile the Maven code. Okay. Now here it will also give you what actually that command does. So basically Maven clean, it will remove the previous build artifacts. Maven package, it will combine the code and package it into a jar file. And then where is the output stored? It will store the output into target slash Java Jenkins Docker one dot snapshot jar. So this would be the file name. So here we have ambient clean that will remove the previous build artifact. We have ambient package that will compile the code and package it into a jar file. Then we have the output jar file. Now it will get stored into target folder, and this would be the name of the Java archival. Okay. Now we have something called basic JUnit test. And in order to perform the unit test case, you can run ambient test, and this will run all the test cases which are present inside source, test, and Java. And if you see this hierarchy structure inside source Java, you'll have the apptest.java file. Okay, this will run the test cases. And then once the test case is done, then you will compile it. Okay, and then your classes will be created. Okay, now we are going to see these how you can learn it locally, and then we are going to containerize it using Docker. Now, once everything is done, the next thing would be we are going to push it to Docker Hub, and we are going to verify whether the changes are actually pushed or not. Okay. So, what are the prerequisites? So, basically, we will need Java 17 plus, Maven, and Docker installed in your system. Okay. So, that was all. Right now, this is the prerequisite, and these are the things that you should understand before even proceeding with it. Now, this is a basic pipeline structure that we are going to follow, but let me just explain you what we are going to do and what is this steps does. See, pipeline defines that we are going to go with the Groovy syntax. Agent tiny. Now, what is an agent? So for now, just understand agent is a worker node where we are going to execute the job. But right now we didn't define the agent, so definitely it will going to run in the master controller plane itself. Then we have stages, just like recipe. We have broken it down into multiple stage, and each stage contains a label that is build, test, Docker build, and Docker run. Post that, there are few executional steps that are required. So, for example, for building, we need the command ambient clean package based on the MD file, based on the handover which has been provided to us by the developers. Okay, then we are going to run test. So basically, ambient test would be the command which will do the job. Then again, Docker build. So for that, we are going to build a Docker file, and then we are going to run the Docker file to verify the changes. So this is the basic pipeline structure that we are going to follow. If you still don't understand, don't worry. While we are going to perform the creation of Jenkins pipeline, the Jenkins file, you will understand it very much easier. Okay, because there is something a tool called helper which is going to help us to create this Groovy syntax. Okay, so yeah. Before so all the things are done, let me just fire up my instance and let me just connect to my EC2 instance. So I'm here. All right. And I hope that the terminal is visible to you. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is, if you remember, the Jenkins will run slow if we did not update the location configuration file. Let me just copy the public IP and I'll just go to slash var lib Jenkins. And inside Jenkins, we have Jenkins called Jenkins.model location configuration file. And here we just need to update this IP address. Okay. All right. We should be good. Escape colon WQ. And let me just restart the Jenkins system. CTL restart Jenkins. All right, so this Jenkins will get restarted. Now, once Jenkins is restarted, then we can start with the further proceedings. Okay. Now, before even we jump directly to Jenkins, what I want to do is I want to show you how things are going to run locally. Okay. So for that, we will require a pull. All right. So let's take a pull from this repo. Let me just go to code and I'll just copy the HTTPS. Okay. Just make sure that you're here under HTTPS. Just copy here, copy the URL to the clipboard. Okay. And then come back and inside Ubuntu home, Okay, this is the current place where we are present. I'll just clone the repository. And in order to clone the repository, we have a git command that is called git clone, and I'll just press on enter. Now, since it was a public repository, we were able to clone the repository. Now, let me verify whether it did cloned or not. So here you can see Jenkins-tutorial, that file is currently present. Okay. Now, let me just go inside the Jenkins repository. So we are inside Jenkins tutorial. Now, the next thing that we want to do is here we are dealing with the Java Jenkins Docker app. So let me just go inside this repository, this directory, and we are right now inside the Java Jenkins Docker app directory. Okay, the folder. Now, let us take reference from the MD file which has been shared with us. Now, here what it says, okay, so in order to compile the Java source code, you have to run mvn clean package. All right, let me just copy this command and run it over here. But see, here is the thing. Since Maven is not installed, the system is saying MVN not found, but it can be installed with apt install Maven. All right, fair enough. So let me just copy and run this command. So what it is going to do is it is going to install Maven. Okay. Now what is Maven? Maven is a project management tool that will help us to build and compile the Java based project. It will help us to install all the dependencies with the help of the pom.xml file. All right. So all the dependency will be installed using the pom.xml file. All right. Okay. So let us proceed forward. Let me just copy the command again and let me run mvn clean package. Okay. And when you execute it, it will install all the dependency which are mentioned in the pom.xml file. Now here you can see that the build is success. Okay. And here under the target folder, we have Java archival which is present over here, that is java-jenkins docker 1.0 snapshot.jar. This is the file that we were expecting for the Maven to create for us. All right. So the initial job is done. Now let us move forward. That is with the test. Okay. So you have to run nvn test, and this will run all the test cases which are written in the source test file. Okay. Here. So let me just paste the command, and what it is going to do is it will run all the test cases, and if the test cases are correct, it will show that the build is success. All right. Till now, we are following a very happy path where all the things are working so fine for us, right? But this thing is actually running locally. Now, when we are going to do the automation in Jenkins, things will get changed. Okay. Now, considering that, okay, build is done, test is done. Now, let us compile the source file and create a package for us. So, for that, I'll run mvn compile, maven compile command. And then here you can see the build is success and the compilation is done. Okay. Now, let us verify after this building is done. Let us run this application locally. So here, if you remember, the name of the archival that was created for us under target folder was Jenkins Docker 1.0 snapshot.jar. So I'll just run this command to verify whether the application is actually running or not. And here you can see the output is present. Hello from Java application, and this is for Jenkins CICD. Okay, meaning the application ran exactly the way it was expected to. And here you can see we have the expected output. Okay, now we are going to automate the same process, okay, using Jenkins. But before even we move forward, let us try to build the Docker image so that like we are aware what we are about to do. Okay. Now considering the fact that all the things are working fine for us. Okay. Let me just do a cat on the Docker file. So this is the Docker file, and what it will do, it will we are using a slime image. It will copy all the code file into slash app directory and all the snapshot into target folder, and then it is going to execute the application file, that is the jar file. Okay, so this is the basic thing that Docker will do. But is Docker installed in your system? So in order to verify, just type docker hyphen version. Okay, so it is saying that Docker is not installed. So let us first install Docker so that we are good with the changes that we need to get proceeded with. So here it is installing Docker into a system. And once it is done, then we are going to create an image and like we are going to run the image. Okay. So yeah, next thing. Now since Docker is installed, let me just verify it once again. Docker hyphen hyphen version, and the version is 27.5.1. All right. Now let us build an image based on the Docker file that we have. So here we have the command called docker build hyphen t java hyphen jenkins hyphen docker colon latest. And here we are mentioning dot, meaning the Docker file is present in the root directory in the current place. Now, it is going to do? It is going to pull the Slim library from Docker Hub, and then it is going to create an image for us. Let us verify the image. So Docker images, you can see the Java Jenkins Docker app is created. And now let us run this. So the output should be the same as we were expecting earlier. That is hello world from Java application. And this is for Jenkins CICD. All right. So these things are working fine in local, right? What we did, we installed Maven, we installed Docker. All the dependency which were needed to run this application are now ready. We even try to isolate it. We even try to create an image so that whenever we are sharing this image to the world, they are also going to get the same output. So this is all the things that we done manually into our local instance. Now let us go to Jenkins finally to automate this process. All right. So here I'll just open one more window. Okay. And let me just copy the IP address and let me fire the Jenkins. Okay. HTTP colon slash slash and port number 8080. Okay. So finally the Jenkins screen is here and let me just log in over here. Okay. So here comes the dashboard, and this is where we left on in the previous video. Now, let us create a very fresh new job because this is will be a very fresh new learning that we would be doing. Okay, so here let us name the pipeline as Java application automation. So this would be the name of job, and definitely the item type that we are going to select is the pipeline. So click on pipeline and then click on OK. Now, see, the new thing that we are going to mark as a learning today is we are not going to directly pull the code from the source code manager, not via the checkbox which are provided, because this would be the very first time that we would be writing the Groovy pipeline itself. So I want you to go directly to the pipeline, and this is the actual definition that I am referring to. Because earlier, what we did, we defined the GitHub repository and it was pulling the code, but we were not aware how things were working behind the hood. This time we are going to mark a new learning by using the pipeline script itself. Okay. Now here, if you can see here, we have two sort of definition. One is pipeline script and secondly is pipeline script from source code manager. Now, Shubham, when you say pipeline script and pipeline script from source code manager, so here we are talking about the Jenkins file. So when I select pipeline script from source code manager, it is expecting you to help you with the source code manager information. Right now, the default one is none, but actually it is Git. It is asking you for. Now, again, it will ask you for the repository URL. So in our case, we are going to provide the same repository URL where the code is stored. But since we already saw this in the previous video, let us go forward with the newer options that we have in our hand. So this time we are going to write a fresh new pipeline script. Now, Shubham, I am coming from a place I don't know programming. I have a basic knowledge how things are going to work, but I don't know how does this Groovy sandbox things work. How do I proceed forward with this? So see, we have something called a sample pipeline script that are present over here. If you go to Hello World, it will give you a basic template. Okay. Now, based on this template, you can define your workflow. Okay. Now, what does this workflow does is here, let's understand the same thing. Here we are defining the pipeline. Okay. We just have to make sure that the curly braces are being followed. Now, just make sure that it is a skeletal that we are filling up into. So right now, whenever you are dealing with a pipeline script, just imagine that you are filling up a form which have a constant value that it is asking you for. Okay. Now, pipeline is started over here, and here we are defining agent as any. So here it would be the controller where the job will get executed. Now under stages, Okay, there is one stage with the label named hello, and there is one step that will print hello world. Okay, we are not going to write anything right now because I just want to show you how does things look when you are going to go with the default one. So I'll just click on apply and save, and let me just trigger the job by clicking on build now. Proceed. All right. So here you'll see if you go to the console. Okay, the hello world is printed and the job is success. So the initial thing is done. Now let us start with the actual automation. So whatever we did locally right now, we are going to automate it with the power of Jenkins. Okay, so all right, hover over here and click on configure, and let us take the reference from the readme.md file like we did earlier, and let us design a new pipeline. Okay, so the first thing that it did was we did a build. Okay, so let me just copy the build command, and here instead of echo, it would be sh followed by the command that is mvn clean package, and here the stage would be build. Let me apply and save. And you know what? This will throw an error. Definitely, it will throw an error. Now, guess what? What is the reason behind it? Okay, if you go back over here. Okay, it is saying as build failure. See, the dependencies are there, and when the command is also getting executed, but where it is getting executed, if you see, right now we are under the path where leave under the workspace, that is the Java application automation that we created, but it doesn't have the code. Okay, we didn't provided it with the source code to build with. So the first thing that we need to do over here is again go to the configure, and this time we have to provide the code. Now, how do I share my code with this thing? Okay, and I don't know how do I write a Groovy syntax. Okay, here we have a pipeline syntax option. Just click over here and it will redirect you to a new snippet page. This is a basically our lifesaver, and this snippet generator will help you to learn the pipeline script code, which can be used to define various workflow. Okay, now the first thing that we want to do is we want to clone a code. So select Git, okay, and under Git, it is asking you for the repository URL. Okay, so let me just copy my repository URL, and let me copy it here. All right, and here it is asking you for the source branch. The source branch here is main. Right now we are on main, so I have provided the same, and we do not require any sort of credential. Why? Because it is a public repository. See, when we are on the topic of credentials or environment variables, all things will be covered. But right now, let us stick to the basics to understand how these things are going to work. We do not want polling, and we do not want to include it in the change log. Right now, our basic requirement is we just want to pull the code from the source code manager, and we want to proceed forward with the further development, that is build, compile, and then we are going to create an image and then push it to the artifactory. Fair enough. Now click on a generate pipeline script, and this is the script that it has generated. Let me copy it directly, go back to the pipeline again. Okay, now here we have stages, stage. Now here, what I have to do is I'll just copy this stage and paste it over here. So instead in this stage, I have to just write, you have to clone the code. So just copy the command that was shared with you and go over here and paste it. You can copy it, one second. All right. So what it is doing is it is actually defining the branch. So git branch, which branch? That is the main branch. Do you want the change log? No. And do you want the polling? So basically it is fault. And which repository we are polling? We are going to work with this repository, right? So this is the URL that has been passed. So that is the actual meaning of this thing. Now, what do you want to label it? Okay, now let me go back. So here earlier I write it, we are cloning the GitHub repository. So I'll just write clone GitHub repository. Okay, so cloning will be done, and then it will perform the Maven clean package. That is, it is going to build and compile. So let me just click on apply and save, and let me just trigger it once again. Now see, it will again fail this time, but the cloning will be done. See, the cloning is done. If I go to the log and if I show you the workspace, you can see inside this workspace, okay, the application file will be present. That is the git clone that we have done. All right. Now, where is the actual issue over here? Now see, if I go back to the log, that is the third build which got failed, here it actually pulled the code from the GitHub, okay, and it actually saw the last commit message, and then it tried to run mvn clean package. But when it started to scan the project, it was not able to verify where the pom.xml file is. That's why it threw the error. Please verify that you maven from the correct directory. Meaning it is only telling us that you are on not a correct directory path. Now, let me go back to the repository, and if I go over here, you can see the current path of the project. See, it is not present in the root, it is present in the subfolder. That is the reason it is not able to detect the pom.xml file. Now, what is pom.xml file? Pom.xml file is a file that is helping Maven to install all the dependency that is required for the Java application to run. Okay, all right. So let us come back again and let me go back to configuration. Now this time the initial challenge for us is to change the directory. Now should I write cd change directory every time, or can we make use of the pipeline syntax generator? All right, so we are not going to change the directory multiple times, and here we are going to make use of our friend, that is the pipeline syntax generator. Let me go over here and let us utilize this tool once again. So here what we want to do is we want to change the directory. So search for change directory, and here you will find this option, that is dir, that is directory, and change directory. Now again, it will ask you for the path. And where do you will get the path? So basically you go inside the repository where the pom.xml file is present and copy the path from here. Paste the path here and click on generate pipeline script. Now see, it actually generated a snippet for you that you can use in your pipeline. Okay, let me go over here and inside step, I'll just add this snippet. Okay, and let me go back and paste it inside the steps. And here we want to execute this command. So that's why I'll just remove this comment and paste the actual command that I have. Okay. And let me just correct the indentation as well. So uh, it will be good for us as a readability. Okay. Now here what is happening? The cloning will be done. Now post cloning is done. It will try to build the application. Let me click on apply and save. And this time it should definitely work. So let us wait. I have triggered the job. The build is scheduled. And here if you go to the logs, okay, here you can see it is actually building and the build is success. Now what happened basically, earlier it was not able to find, okay, where the pom.xml file is. That's the reason it asked us to change and check whether we are on the correct path or not, right? So let me go back over here, go back to configure. Now successful these things is done. Let us go back, and this time based on the documentation that is been provided to us, we are going to perform a test. Okay, now that test is based on the file that has been already provided, and that file is actually stored in source file. Okay, so yeah, again we are going to perform the same operation but with different method. Okay, so let me just copy the stage. Okay, and here making sure that we are following the indentation. This time we want to perform test. So I'll just write test. And here again, the directory is the same directory, but the command will get changed. And what is the command? That is mvn test, maven test, and it will refer the file which is stored inside the source file. Okay, ambient test, and we are expecting the same output that we got inside the local repository in the local server. When I click on apply and save, and when I'm going to trigger the build will get scheduled, and this time the build 5 will get scheduled. If you go over here inside the log, it will scan for the project, it will run the stage. Okay, it will run the test. Now see, things were working smooth in local and things are working smooth in Jenkins pipeline as well. Okay, so right now we automated two things. First is it will clone the code, it will run the test case, and it will compile the things for us. Okay, now go back to configure and refer the documentation again. See, the code package was created, meaning the snapshot file was created, then the JUnit tests were run, the testing is completed. Now the final thing is to compile the code and create the .class file. All right, the compilation will get started. So let me just go to configure this time, go to pipeline, and again, let me just copy this stage, paste it over here, and this time the operation that we are going to do is basically compilation. So I am going to compile, and the command for the compilation here is nvn compile. Okay, apply and save. All right, let us trigger the build again. Okay, now here you can see it is actually cloning the repository. It is building it. The test cases are run and the compilation is done too. If you go over here, you can see the build is success and the compiler is done. Okay, all right. So build is done, test is done, and compile is done, meaning we are very good to get started with it. Okay, all right. Now, once everything is done, if you want to run it, basically it will give you the output, but we are not focused on the result because see we already ran it locally. The main thing for us, the task was to actually verify whether it is able to give you this output or not. Okay, if you want to check whether it is giving you the output, you can definitely go for it. Now see, these things are done. Now let us move forward with the creation of the docker file. Okay, now go back over here, go to configure, and this time what we are going to do is we are going to build a docker image. Go to pipeline, compilation is done. Let me just copy this stage, paste it over here, and here Docker image build. Okay. Now here it is again, it will go to the same directory. So since that's the reason we are not changing here anything. But the thing that is going to change over here is the method. That time we were learning it, we were running it locally, but this time we are making use of Jenkins. So let me just replace this command and I'll just type it over here. So docker build -t java jenkins docker latest. Okay, so this would be the image that would be created. And post that, I want to do one more thing. I want to execute this docker file, paste it over here. And what was the name of the stage? So it is docker image tag and then docker login. All right. So before even that, I just want to execute it. So I just want to verify whether the changes are actually running up or not. Okay. So once that is done, I'll just run docker run, and I'll just replace this command with the one that I have already. Okay. Docker run -rm Jenkins docker latest. Click on apply, save, and trigger the pipeline. Okay. Now here again it cloned the repo, it built it, it is doing the testing. Now it will do the compilation, and here we have an error for the Docker image build and Docker run. If you go to the failed results, go all the way to the bottom. Okay, now what it is saying. Okay, let us see what actually is the issue over here. Deprecated. The legacy builder is deprecated and will remove in future release. Okay, install buildx component to build the images with the build kit. The permission is denied while trying to connect Docker daemon. And okay, so there are two issues basically. It is not able to build, and second, there is a permission error. Okay, how do we close it? Now here we are going to make use of our best friend, that is ChatGPT. So what we are going to do is let me just copy this command. Okay, because see, this is the place where we are getting the issue. Go to ChatGPT now, and this is the place where we are going to write the prompt, and it will definitely help you. So first of all, you can just write, I am trying to build an image using Jenkins. Okay, but I am getting the below error. Okay. I just wrote it in a very basic English so that like it is easier for you to troubleshoot the changes. Okay. Now here you just write help me in troubleshoot this based on the below log. Okay. Now here what it is saying is since you don't have the permission to access Docker, okay, the first thing that you need to do is you have to give the permission. So first of all that you need to do is it is asking you to restart Docker. Okay. Now once it is done, you are going to give add the user to Jenkins group. So see, you are going to add Docker into Jenkins group so that like you have all the permission that are required to run the Jenkins. All right, go back to here into the console, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the same command. I'm going to add Docker into the Jenkins group so that the permission issue will get resolved. All right, let me just go down and now see. Since this was a configurable changes, now as I mentioned earlier, whenever you make any sort of small configuration change, you need to do a service restart. So here we are going to restart Jenkins, okay, and it will restart Jenkins for us. Now this time when you run this, the issue will get resolved. Okay. Now let us go back to the Java application. Now I believe that the Java Jenkins service is running. So system CTL status Jenkins. Okay, it is active up and running. And let me just do a refresh over here. Let me just log in. Okay. Now let us trigger a build once again because see, this time we added Docker into Jenkins group. Now it has all the permission that are required. So this time the permission issue should get eliminated for sure. Let me just click on build now. Okay, cloning the code, success, building, done. Okay, it is running the test cases. Test cases is done. See, since we provided the permission, the issue is actually resolved. If you go to the logs, earlier it was showing the permission denied error. Now, once we provided it with the required permission, that is, we added Docker into Jenkins group, the permission issue is getting resolved, and now we are able to build an image. And this is the image that we have created, and this is the output that we were expecting, right? So far and so good, things are working very fine for us. Now, let us go back. We are here at this stage. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to push this change to Docker Hub so that the image is present to the world and they can actually use our application. Okay. So let me go back to the automation tab. Let me go back to configure again. Now, see, if you know basics about Docker, if you want to push any changes into your Docker Hub repository, you need to tag it properly. Let me just go here into Docker Hub and log in with my credentials. So if you are wondering what actually Docker Hub is, so just imagine Docker Hub just like GitHub. In GitHub, you store your code. In Docker Hub, you store your artifacts. So that is the basic thing that is difference between Docker Hub and Git. Okay. So that is a very basic example that I have given to you. All right. So here, all the images that we are going to create, all the artifacts will get stored over here. Now, if you see, there is one pattern that you can see that is the username followed by the application. All right. And the tagging is going to be performed in the same manner. So go over here and in the pipeline, the next thing that you want to do is see, if you want to run the application, go for it. But if you don't want to, you can just keep it as is. So here, after the image build is done, we want to do Docker tagging. Okay, so Docker tag image, and here in order to tag an image, the command is Docker tag followed by the current image name and the desired image name. So that would be my user slash Java hyphen app current version 1. Okay, so this would be the tag for it. Let me just apply and save and click on build. Now let us wait and verify whether it is actually performing the tagging or not. If there is any issue, let us troubleshoot it out and let us make use of ChatGPT for whatever issues we get. But the basic thing should be we should be able to troubleshoot the things. If you go over the log, you can see that Docker tag is successful. All right. Now what is the next step? If you go over here, okay, Docker image tag is done. The next thing is Docker login, and then we have to push it to the Artifactory. All right, fair enough. Go to pipeline. After Docker tag, we need to do Docker login so that the credentials are verified. So Docker login, and here the command would be Docker login hyphen u followed by the username and hyphen p followed by the password. All right, let me click on apply and save. Now let us verify whether Jenkins A is able to log in or not. Okay, most probably it should be because it is just the command line argument that we pass to. So let us wait. And here you can see that Docker login is successful. If I hover over here and under logs, you can see it is able to log in. All right. See, I know there are few people who are going to say that, okay, we are compromising with the security, but the actual thing is this is just the basic, and we are going to do a deep dive on the credentials and everything. But right now, the thing is you have to just understand how does the things are actually working, right? All right, so Docker login is done. Now the next step that we want to do is, okay, that is we need to push this image, this artifactory to Docker Hub. All right, let me go to configure. Let me go to pipeline again. And this time we just want to push the image. So let me copy this stage. Okay, paste it over here. And this is Docker push. And the command is Docker push followed by the image name. And here the image name is the username slash the image name. So it is this Java app v1. All right. So the Docker push is also done. Click on apply and save and click on build now this time. This is build number 11 that we are checking right now. Now see, this is how you proceed forward with the pipeline creation. You verify each and every step that you create, and post everything is done, you can proceed forward with it, right? If you go to logs, okay, go all the way to the bottom, it is saying that okay, the image is pushed, and where it is pushed to Docker Hub. All right, let me just verify. Let me just do a refresh over here. Okay, if you see, there is a Java app which is pushed over here. Okay, and that is just a few seconds ago. All right, if you go to tags, this is the exact tag that we created, that is v1. All right. Okay. Now the next thing is for cleaning workspace. Now, Shubham, what is clean workspace? Now, see, if you go over the Jenkins pipeline here, just hover over here. I'll just tell you what actually a clean workspace is. What is clean workspace? It will delete the workspace when the build is done. Now, why to keep the clutter which is not required for us? Okay, it will unnecessarily use the space. Okay, when we are dealing with Jenkins, storage is definitely a very big thing for us, right? So here we want to clear the workspace when the build is done. So let me just refresh it 1 second. Here we want to clear the workspace and click on okay. Here click on advanced, and here we don't want to do anything. After every status, it should clean the workspace. So click on generate pipeline. Here you have this function. Now where you need to execute this function is basically after the job is done. So click on configure, go to pipeline. Okay. Now here, if you go to this specific pipeline, I have already added whatever we have done so far. Okay. So this will be again a stage for us. All right. And this would be cleaning workspace. All right, and inside this directory, we will be passing this workspace function. Okay, clean workspace, and just execute this function and click on apply save. All right, and click on build now. All right. All right, and the clean workspace is also done. So whatever was done, okay, whatever we have promised, we are actually able to automate it, right? So that was a very good example for us, a very good learning that we learned today. First of all, we executed it locally. We understood how does this project behaves when we are actually running it in local. Okay, then we actually automated each step one by one into Jenkins. We figured out, okay, when we are getting this error, what should be done, whom to ask for help. We made use of chat gpt to troubleshoot the issue, and then things worked very fine for us. It worked very smooth for us, right? This was definitely a very good learning for us. So I want you to go through this minor project, and this will definitely help you out to learn more about Jenkins, right? So this Java-based application did add some value to your learning, and I believe that it will definitely add value to your learning. Just verify the images that are pushed over here so that it will give you the confidence that okay, whatever that Shubham is doing, I am able to replicate at the same time. I want you to do is, after this thing is done, create your own application. Now how would you do it? Make use of chat gpt, make use of REPL IT. It will give you wonderful outputs. Okay, now once those outputs are ready, host it into GitHub. Okay, and try to build it, automate it using Jenkins, and then only you are going to learn about it, right? And if you face any issue, then feel free to add all the things in the comments along with the logs so that I can help you out with that. But before even reaching out for help, just make use of all the available resources that you have. Okay, you have a wonderful resource that is ChatGPT. Provide it with the log, just tell it what you are trying to do, what is the expected output, and it will give you clear cut answers. Okay, if you're still facing any issue, then you reach out with the people who have actually worked on it, right? So yeah, I hope this thing definitely adds some value to your learning. In the next video, we are going to perform the same operation but with Python based application, right? Then the next video may be a short one, but this is actually going to do the same thing. Okay, all right. So yeah, that was all, and I will see you in the next one.